Okay. So I've been deciding whether to make a review on this or not, because I'm only about 10 hours into playing the game, and as you can see from this footage, I had a very hard time recording it. You guys essentially can see what I see though. It was not great quality, and this was at like lowest graphics. It's very hard to record this game. It seems to have quite high requirements on PC. And yeah, I've been debating whether I should do a review on it or not, just because I'm only 10 hours in and I'm not even currently at the full extent of the story. So I'm going to leave story out and talk about gameplay for the most part, and performance, and the online play, as I've had experience with all three of those, and I will give my full review after I actually complete the story. Okay, let's begin off with the characters. I have played three of the four characters, and plan on playing the fourth one very soon. Again, probably in my next review, I'll give a review on the fourth character, but I'll talk about the three characters I've been playing as. For one, I played a lot as Nightwing. You'll see only Nightwing in this video, in this footage really, because I essentially just gave up on recording once once I really had the choice to play other characters. So, Nightwing. Nightwing is currently not my favorite character to play. Nightwing is my favorite Bat Family member, Batman soon following after, then Tim Drake Robin, Batgirl, is in front of Tim Drake Robin, and then Red Hood being my least favorite. I think he's quite overrated, but, that's just my opinion. I quite enjoy the character designs of most of the characters. The only thing that I didn't really stick with was Red Hood, and that might be a bit of bias on my part, but I didn't really like his jacket a lot. This is character designs. So, talking about actual characters, how I feel about playing them, Nightwing was not my favorite. He does have a very flow-based bounce off of other people type of combat, and it was pretty nice. The elemental attacks, in my opinion, only ever really would make sense for Nightwing, as his batons usually carry some type of electricity. Same thing with Red Hood, with his guns usually having, or symbol on his stomach, usually having an electric-based power to it. Of course, there's a lot of things I'm going to have to talk about, like specifically the special traversal abilities that the specific characters have, as I have not got to use them, but I'm going to talk about how I specifically feel about them as a whole. Again, this is going to be a very niche review right now, as, again, only 10 hours in does not mean I have too much to go off of. So, beginning off, the character I've enjoyed the most to play as is currently Robin. Robin is really fun, as you can just go stealth and take out the big guys and then just handle all the little guys. It's really fun, and it just allows for less repetitive gameplay, but it also can lead to repetitive gameplay if you just take out the big guy all the time. You can do lots of things with him, and his abilities are pretty nice. I haven't felt like I'm using one more than the other, as I like using all three of the abilities I have currently on him, unlike Nightwing, where I'm essentially only using two, and he has four. The design that they did for the momentum abilities was actually quite nice, and I do like how the momentum abilities work. You gain momentum by beating up other enemies, or by dodging, and then you're able to do an ability. It's a nice way to make it so it isn't just a spam fest, and you really have to decide, when to use your abilities, as you have to charge them up. Though, this could also lead to some just boring sections of gameplay where it's just, yep, I'm going to punch this guy, or use my long range attack on this guy until I gain momentum. It's not really the best design, and, it isn't really what I was looking for. I came into this going relatively blind, as I watched essentially one trailer and said, yep, that's what I'm gonna watch for this. I watched all the character trailers, but I never really watched any gameplay trailers other than the character trailers. I wanted to be relatively blind going into it, and I'm actually kind of disappointed with with the gameplay of a lot of the characters. The long range just feels like a way to get away. It doesn't feel like it has any weight. It does so little damage, it just chips off tiny bits of the enemy's health. Of course, this isn't a bad thing, and I much prefer when you aim the long range attacks, as it actually gives a kind of weight to it, as all of the other ones is just mash triangle and boom boom boom. You know, they shoot little darts. It's not great. I do quite like Batgirl's long range animation the most, as it makes a lot of sense. It's batarangs. Batgirl, in my opinion, made the most sense as a character, and that's the character I'm going to get into next, as Batgirl is the most recent character I have been playing. I'm still not perfectly done with her, with the quest line to get, 10 crimes, as I've been playing mostly as Nightwing and Robin. So, yeah. I actually quite enjoyed her. She felt kind of like a brute, but she's definitely my least favorite of the three I've played so far. Again, this might be biased towards my feelings, as I really like Nightwing, and he is tied for my favorite superhero in all of comics. So it might just be a little biased to me. But, of course, Batgirl was always fun. She kind of just mashed her way through fights again, and Arya seems to think that the combat is very strategic, but I'm gonna have to admit, it's not. I kind of just mash my way through. Yeah, you get rewarded for timing your attacks, but it doesn't really matter because the enemy can't get back up if you're just mashing. It's not the most compelling gameplay, but it's still fun when you're doing it. It's not the worst thing in the world. And Barbara Gordon's abilities were probably the best that I've seen so far. Robin's are good, and all of them feel like they have a use, but Barbara has some really good ones. Specifically her beatdown and the one where she jumps up and shoots the batarangs at people. It is always nice to have a good variety via range and, very close range. And it definitely helps to have stuff like that. But yeah. Let me continue. Batgirl definitely had some of the best costume designs as well. I'm going to talk about costume designs after I finish characters, though, so let's get into that later. Nightwing, the character I've played the most, is my second favorite character to play. He felt really flowy, as I've mentioned, and he bounces around enemies. And like I've said, his abilities always seem like they make sense as for elemental attacks, and his jumping ability being his first one. It's nice to see Nightwing really be more in-depth, unlike the Arkham games, which had him more as a DLC character, who was kind of just a reskin of the other DLC characters, other than his batons. He didn't feel as acrobatic as I hoped he would. Of course, as the movement in this game kind of is crap, I'll talk about that again later. It's nice to see him jump around and, do all kinds of stuff like that. But my biggest problem for him stemmed from his long range. It just didn't make sense to me. And it will never make sense. He shoots tiny little baby darts out of his batons. And it's kind of sad. I was hoping he would throw it, and because that's usually what he does. It didn't make a lot of sense for me for him to just be all about darts, especially since all characters have that as their quick fire, kinda. Most characters do, and it just isn't the greatest. I haven't played Red Hood yet. He's the one character I haven't played yet. I'm not excited to unlock his character mobility, his special one. Now, I'm going to talk about those real quick. Character mobility makes no sense to me. For one, Nightwing's got just a Fortnite glider. I guess he's kind of just, you know, dropping at tilted towers, but, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to be flying around the city with a Fortnite glider. Though, unlike that, Batgirl's makes a lot of sense. She glides with her cape. That's exactly what Batman does. And Tim, what does he do? He teleports. Okay, this is getting out of hand. It's crazy. But then, guess Red Hood walks on air because he's Tinkerbell now. And it's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Well, it's like, yeah, he got revived by the Lazarus Pit, and in comics he does have a, you know, magic sword, but it's a sword he can only lift up and he can pull it out of thin air. He can't just walk on air. It doesn't make any sense, and it's kind of bullcrap. It's kind of lazy. Yeah. They all kind of suck. The only one that makes sense is Barbara Gordon, and that makes sense because it's literally what Batman would do. And from what I've heard from Arya, because I don't have it yet, it feels just like a slow version of the Arkham game version. It's, of course, always nice to talk about cosmetics, and I feel they lack. It's a decent amount of cosmetics. I think Arya said without the DLC, like 56 options for cosmetics. I think Arya might have her math wrong, though, because she didn't know the Beyond suits were a part of that. I don't know. But there is a decent amount of suits, and 3 customization options for mask, symbol, and boots. Oh, yeah. Is there gloves in that, too? There's also might be gloves in that. And it is nice to customize the suits, but I just feel like for, like, designs of the suits, there's not a lot, and I feel like I haven't been getting a lot of them. Again, this might just be because I'm early game right now. Okay. Continuing on. No. Actually, yeah. Let's continue talking about cosmetics for a bit. Alright. Cosmetics were relatively good. I liked most of them on Batgirl and Robin, and I feel like Red Hood had the weakest, and Nightwing's were bad because of one specific element, or that would same to say with Red Hood, but he just has more costumes like that. Of course, this is my biased opinion, and Nightwing is my favorite character, but I'm gonna have to admit, Barbara Gordon had the best cosmetics, Robin following after. And again, might also be my bias that I think Red Hood is the worst of the Bat family. I think he had the worst cosmetics because of his mask specifically. Okay, let's continue on to I'm gonna talk about movement now. The movement is really bad. It feels really janky. Characters feel like they're never moving fast, and the dodging is definitely the best you would see out of the movement because it looks nice. It doesn't feel nice, and character animations look nice, but again, it doesn't feel great to use those animations. You know, all walking around feels slow. The bike is like the only way to get around cities fast, and it's so buggy that it's not even worth it sometimes. And yeah, it's really the movement is what this game definitely needed to improve on, as its movement is really bad. You don't even have a jump button. You kind of just... and apparently in the Arkham games you didn't either, but it just feels so jank because sometimes I just feel like I try to jump to one point and it jumps me to the other point, and it's not the most fun. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about the movement. It's probably the worst part of the game, and it's gonna bring down that rating a decent amount, because I love movement in game. I really like movement, and it just feels so bad. The sliding was a nice touch, but it doesn't feel great, the game, for movement wise. And the combat, let's talk about full on combat. Okay, full on combat, again, like I mentioned, the long range kind of feels crap. The close range is nice, but it gets repetitive, and that's essentially all you want to do. And then you just kind of spam momentum abilities when you have them. It's not the greatest or at all, you know, what's the word? It's not the greatest, and it's not at all, not repetitive. It's very repetitive, and I don't know. Arya does not seem to think so at all, but, this is just my opinion. I think the game combat isn't the greatest. It's not the worst aspect of the game, though. Definitely, probably the best. The animations are great. That is probably the best. Cosmetics, okay. It's pretty good. Gameplay, for combat, okay, that's also pretty good. But movement is the worst aspect, and this bike is even worse. For me, for when I was recording, I just started going in and out of reality, and it just sucked. And even when I'm not recording, the bike is still the laggiest part of the game for me, other than just spamming grappling hook. And that might just be because I'm going around the city super fast, and it has to load in things. I'm going to talk about performance issues after, though. I gotta talk about a couple more things. Okay, so I've talked about combat, movement, I've talked about characters, I've talked about costumes. Okay, enemies. Okay, enemies are a big thing. Yeah, no, there's not that big of a variety. There's a lot of gangs, but that's not a variety, because most of the characters you fight relatively feel the same, other than the mini-bosses, and essentially, at where I'm at, there's 2 of those. There's 2 mini-bosses, and it's not great. I haven't faced any bosses yet, and again, this review is very early, but I just want to kind of get a review down for my first impressions, and then see when I beat the game, see what my final impressions are. Because my first impressions, I'm not gonna lie, aren't great. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about the performance. Performance, I've had a lot of issues. It just slows down everything. It's not great for performance. If you have a, medium-end PC, would not suggest getting it on there, because you might be running it at minimal requirements, and I can tell you, I'm running it at 20-something% above minimal requirements, and I'm having more lag than Arya, who is running it, I think, at 10, maybe 15, closer to 15, so not too much higher than mine, or lower than mine. She's having a lot better of a time, but she might have some bias to that, but I'm having an awful time running the game. It's not great experience. I'm constantly lagging, dropping frames, and I'm not even recording at that point, and it's not great. It is not great to have big performance issues. They hopefully will clear this up, but the performance is really bad right now. I drop so much frames, and you'll see one point in this video, I'm riding the bike, and it's so laggy that I just stopped to start changing my graphic settings, because it wasn't perfectly low. It was like, I had to turn up my frame rate, my view distance, or FOV. It was not great. I'm probably going to have to turn my view distance up, because it lags so much. because it has to render things in, I think, and that I just need it to have most of it rendered in, so it doesn't do that to me. It's really bad. I have to run it at... I've been running it at minimal graphics because of the lag. I could probably touch it up a notch, because it doesn't look the greatest. But my Fortnite, I also ran it for a while at minimal graphics, and it did not look the greatest. I don't mind. I'm running, like, Evil Dead the game at, like, some of the lowest graphics, so I can try to record it. I don't know. It's, it really depends for performance. It's, like, sometimes it runs perfectly fine, sometimes it crashes on me, and sometimes it's not great at all. Sometimes it's, like, the worst thing ever, and that's what it has been for the most part, in the middle of those two. So, not great. I've had frame drops and stuff like that, as I've mentioned. So, no, performance-wise, it's not even doing great on that, for a medium NPC. Alright, let's continue with online gameplay. Online's actually pretty fun. It's nice to just go around the city with Arya, and she does crimes while I look for chests. It's nice to see that she can gain levels, not a lot, because she's grinded the game. She's at, like, level 20-something. I'm still level, like, 12, maybe, I think, now. Like, 12 or 15, and it's not great for her, but that's not exactly my fault, as I tried to play it with her as much as I could. So, either way, yeah. It's pretty fun, though, again, performance does a lot of the problems to me, as I've had crashing while trying to get into her Gotham City. I've had crashing while she was in my Gotham City. I've had, decent amount of problems with her having lag on her end, but that's probably just our Wi-Fi, not the problem of the game's online play. But the online play is definitely how you would play it in this case. It's a lot more fun to play it with a friend, and the only problem is that, of course, if you do something with your friend, they won't really progress like that on their world, but they will be able to skip boss fights and stuff like that. So, it's not the worst thing. Another problem I had with Wi-Fi, or the game, is that I was constantly, despite having perfectly fine Wi-Fi at that time, disconnecting and reconnecting from the online services. You'll probably see it throughout this video, because it happened a lot on day one. This was day one, by the way, the footage here. And, yeah, it was not a great experience. I've had to restart the game a couple times. But, yeah. Overall, the game has... Okay, let's get to, like, a conclusion here. Overall, the game has had, pretty iffy start to it. Its performance issues are pretty bad. It has pretty bad performance. Even when I'm not recording, it lags a lot, and I do mean a lot. The bike always lags. The grappling lags when I do it too much. I lose frames. It's not great. Performance is pretty bad. On the other hand, movement is garbage. It is really bad. It's god-awful. It is god-awful. I don't know how you make movement that stiff. And it's just so stiff. Like, combat movement is perfectly fine because you can bounce around enemies, but just moving around, like running and walking, it doesn't feel like you're going anywhere, really. It's so much better to go on the bike or grappling if you're not lagging constantly. Oh yeah, continuing on, the characters are great. So far, from all three of them, I've liked Robin the most and Batgirl the least. I have not played Red Hood yet, though, and currently, I plan on playing him. Again, I'm only 10 hours into the game, around 10 hours into the game, and I've done a lot, and I mean a lot of side missions instead of actually progressing the story. So, I'm not too far. So, just keep that in mind. I will be doing a final review once I'm ready for that kind of stuff. Continuing on, it is really nice to have good character design, and they, for the most part, have good costume design. I didn't talk about this while we were talking about designs and character designs, but the out-of-suit designs are garbage, and yeah, some of them are okay, like Dick Grayson specifically, but all the rest of them kind of suck. Costume designs great, like I've mentioned multiple times. All around they're fine. Combat feels pretty smooth, but it's sometimes quite janky, and it's so far I haven't even played for that long, and it's already starting to kind of get repetitive. It's not too repetitive, and it's really fun. But it isn't the best thing. Okay, continuing on, what else did we talk about? Oh, abilities. Abilities have been relatively fun, but not the greatest. Online gameplay has been probably the best way to experience it, but there is connection issues that I have despite having good Wi-Fi. I just constantly connect to the online services and disconnect from the online services. It's not the most fun. It happens a lot during the footage, and I didn't mention this again. Well, I'm just noticing this now, but cutscenes were quite laggy. I dropped a lot of frames during them, and the first cutscene is god-awful, because, for me, you don't get to see this in this video because I cut it out because of how bad it was, and I don't really want you guys to hear it or see it, but I had it slow motion, dropping frames, and the audio was ahead of the video. So, no, I didn't have a great time with cutscenes. A lot of performance issues. Some of the things just make zero sense. Like, their traversal ways, other than Batgirl's, just don't make a lot of sense. The Fortnite glider, Nightwing just... Why? Is he gonna be in Fortnite? No, he isn't it yet, so screw you guys. So yeah, it's... Honestly... I'm gonna rate this game, first experience, 10 hours in, I'm gonna rate this a whopping 6.5 out of 10. It lost a lot of points on its movement being real crap. It lost points on, some choices for character designs and lack of some costumes, lack of, enemy variety, lack of, frames, really. It isn't the greatest to see that. It's kind of sad. I had high hopes for the game, and, they kind of let me down. But, I still enjoy the game. It's a fun game. If it's on sale, buy it. It's like Avengers. Don't buy it. Don't buy it if it's on full price. Buy it if it's on sale, because it's really a game that depends on how you want to play. And I wasn't sure Aria would like this, because it feels like one of those games, like a Dynasty Warriors game, truly. Except with a lot less people, and the weapons are a lot less powerful. Though you, like this way, you kind of just mash your way through it, and that's kind of it. There's not too much to that other than story and some costumes, I guess. But that's really it. And I can't say too much more about the game, because truly, I was looking to find the good parts underneath it, but it was really hard, because it didn't have a lot of great. It didn't have a lot of good. Its good parts stemmed from costume design. They had pretty good costume design. It stemmed from animations. Animations were great. Combat was pretty good. Stealth, pretty good. you know, but they had a lot of flaws. And it's not the greatest to have that many flaws for a game specifically, but it wasn't awful. It wasn't the worst game in the world, but it's not the best either. That's why I'm rating it a 6.5 out of 10. Again, this rating might go up, or it might go down over the course of when I play the game more often and actually complete the entire story. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the game down in the comments, you know. If you agree or disagree with this tier list, feel free to tell me what you would rate the game, because I'd love to hear that. I love hearing what you guys think about the game, because the feedback I get actually can rethink my choice on how I reviewed it. If I reviewed it too harsh, or I reviewed something too like great, I might rethink, like, why would this person think that, you know? What is their point of view on this specific topic, you know? Well, clearly their point of view has something to do with, I don't know, per se. If you guys, like, when you guys said on the Demon Slayer tier list I should put characters higher, I did, because I rethink, you know, I took another look at it, and then I actually played as those characters a bit more. I was like, actually, yeah, these guys are pretty strong. You're right. You know, that the creative feedback really helps. So yeah, you know, I want to post more about this, but it's hard to without getting really crappy footage like this one. So yeah, thank you all for watching this video, you know. I'll see you all in the next one. We're almost at 500, by the way. I think we're at 480 right now, so about 20 more videos. I'm not on perfect course to be in November, but I sure hope I can. I'll try to post shorts just so we can make it before December. I really want to do this, and I'm so excited, guys. So yeah, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.